This is one of the hardest racing events that is available on Zwift. You've got 1 hour and 4 all-out races that need to be completed back to back. In each of those races you get points for your placement, but there is a fierce competition every single time. They are called tiny races. Let's see how I did. What's up guys, time has come for me to do another race. Honestly, in the last 2 weeks I haven't been racing too much. I didn't really want to do all-out rides before I am completely fine from my sickness. Especially after the experience in Innsbruck where I suffered throughout the whole race, even though I didn't put out that much of an effort. So this was the first race of this week's tiny races. It was on the Glasgow Crit, 2 laps. One of my favorite courses, as it's very dynamic, there is still something going on. It's very rarely flat. And the highlight of this course is obviously the Clyde kicker, a very short but very steep climb. Usually that climb is deciding the outcome of the race on this course. However, this being only 2 laps and it being the first race of the 4 where everyone was fresh still, it might not be enough to be any deciding factor, but we will see. Start of the race was pretty fast, but it wasn't anything crazy, especially considering that these are tiny races. If you've never raced tiny races, since they are very short, the effort level is usually incredibly hard from start to finish. That's true especially for the first one of the 4, because people are fresh. Usually on the second, third and fourth, people are a little more conservative with their energy, but on the first one, people usually go very hard. Here we are approaching the first Clyde kicker of the day, and the key to successfully tackling this climb is not to ease up too early. It is very easy to trick yourself into feeling that the climb is over, but after the crest of the hill there is still a very small uphill segment that you still need to push if you really want to end up in the first bunch, which I managed to execute here pretty well. The good thing is that after the climb you immediately have a descent, so you can rest at least a little bit, if there is something like rest in these short races, but every bit where you don't have to do max power is very welcome. The success or failure in these races is very closely linked to your mental toughness rather than your physical capabilities, because since you are doing those races all out, it is very easy to start hurting very soon in the race, and what you need to do is repeat to yourself that the effort is very short. Usually the individual races are about 8 to 10 minutes, and then you have about 5 minutes of rest before the start of the second race. So if you are doing tiny races, just set your goal to making it to the next race. If you take it as a series of 4 races, it is very easy to give up when you start hurting very early in the first race. But if you can make it to the next race and start the next race, chances are you can finish the next race, and then you can recover again during the break and start the next race, and before you know it, all 4 races are done. But it is a very painful event, and you need to be prepared for that. especially mentally. Second glide kicker is here, and this on the last lap can really make or break your race. If you lose your position here, it is very hard to recover from that, because a lot of the rest of the course is downhill. So really try to push through your pain here to end up in a good position at the top of the hill, like I did here. You don't need to finish first or second, but you need to prevent the front group from escaping you. At this point, it was time to start thinking about the finishing strategy. If you've seen my video from my first tiny races, I went completely all out during the first race, and I end up second, but it completely drained my energy for the rest of the races, and I basically suffered through the 3 next races. And you need to really keep in mind that this is just your first race, even though you are fresh. So I was considering doing a sprint, but I remembered the previous event and I decided to take it hard, but sort of reasonable. So, second round, Bella lap. I have no clue what that is, even in what world we are in. Is this Yorkshire or Richmond? Looks like Richmond. Well, as it turns out, it isn't Richmond. It is Crete City, a separate world with just this very short course. And I've never rode here before, so it was completely new for me. And the main passage of this course is this rolling terrain here, Basically it goes up and down consistently, so whether you are doing this course forward or in reverse, this is basically going to be your most difficult part of the course, since you really need to pedal consistently and hard to keep up with the group. First lap done, and I actually have to say that I really like this course. I like it a lot. It's a lot of fun. Again, it's consistently up and down, so there is consistently something going on. And I'm eager to race this in the future when I know it better. This was my first time, so obviously I wasn't sure about the optimal strategy on this course, and I don't think that racing this for the second time I will be sure about the optimal strategy, but I'm eager to race it again. Unfortunately, this was the first time I've seen it included in one of the races, so we will see if there is going to be a similar event anytime soon. At this point, my legs are obviously tired already, which isn't surprising with this intensity, but I missed a lot of training during the last 2 weeks, so my legs were quite screaming at me, so I'm at least trying to draft as well as possible to stay with the group. That's my main goal, but I think at this point it is clear that with this field, with this peloton, I don't have too much of a chance to do great results. It is fair to say that this race was according to racing score, but it wasn't the groups that are set up from Zwift. Zwift Insider uses their own racing score bands, which are better for me. I was able to race here with the third group, but as you can see, the third group still wasn't by any means easy for me. This was pretty much full field of B riders, maybe some A riders as well. So nothing easy about these races. And it makes sense. They are very popular. Even during summer, they were pretty heavily populated. And they are basically great VO2 max workouts, so they are very popular among the good riders. The last stretch of the road, and my goal here is pretty much finish somewhere in the middle of the pack, since I believe that is the best I can do without going into full-out sprint, which I didn't want to do here. So I pushed the power a little to stay with the sprinting pack, but I wasn't trying to outsprint it or anything.
The next one is Downtown Dolphin. Again, I have no clue what it is or where we are, but I'm already pretty tired. I wasn't racing too much lately. Is it like the same one, but in reverse? Looks like so, right?
And indeed it was the same crit city course as the previous one, only in reverse, and I actually think this side is more difficult because there is this cobbled climb that you can see 3 times on the screen, and there is the descent through the rollers, which technically looks like descent on the elevation profile, but since it's up and down, you still need to pedal pretty hard to stay with the group. So I would say this side is more difficult. Thankfully this climb is very short, and we had the steamroller available, so you can really push up this climb with a single punchy effort. here we are in the rollers. It is technically a descent, but take a look at this. I am pushing red watts and the group is still leaving me. And that's what I was talking about. It is technically a downhill, but in reality you really need to push hard here. At this point in the race, I was merely focusing on these climbs up the cobblestones to stay with the group. So these were the sections that I really conserved my energy for, to stay with the front group. And I would say that at this point it was the correct strategy to do. At this point it might look like I'm getting dropped, but after the finish line of the second lap, the group eased up and managed to regroup. And that is actually my experience quite often, that you don't really need to often push as hard as possible, because even when the group does, it eases up eventually, and if there is a flat section or downhill, you can usually catch up with the group and basically regroup. Here is just another example of it. The front bunch looks like it might try to create some separation, but once again it was only temporary and optical, and here we are regrouped again. One last push, one last hard effort on this course. My goal is again to stay with the front. But here on the rollers, the group started to pushing to the finish line, and I knew that if I would follow at this point, I would be cooked for the last one. So I basically sacrificed this race and its result, which is kind of ironic because I ended up in a better spot than in the previous one. But yeah, that was what I was doing really here.
And the last one is Neokio Crit. I believe this one is pretty flat, at least.
I didn't race this one before either. I am in general not too familiar with the crit courses, as I'm not doing them very often, which I actually should because they're quite a lot of fun. But I was at least aware of the environment that we were doing this race in. Obviously, I'm quite familiar with Neokio.
My legs are toast now.
Yeah, and that is something that everyone who ever raced tiny races will confirm. Since there are 4 in the row, they can really drain your energy to extents that you could never imagine in a standard racing. These are very, very difficult. 1K to go, and here we could really feel the effort ramping up. Since this was a last race of the series, I really wanted to push as hard as possible. At the end, I don't think this was a spectacular result, but I did 4 honest efforts, and I think today it was pretty much all that I could have done. Thank you guys for watching. I will let you finish this in peace. If you like this content, subscribe, and as always, I will see you in the next one. Ciao.
Ah.